Alright, so the game crashed on me again. Lovely. Basically, it seems like the most I can get out of this before it breaks is 2 maps. So I'm going to try crash. Will crash crash? Seems not. Well, I say that. Let me just make sure real quick. Okay, all good. Or at least I hope so. So, I'm just going to play the other maps with the Star Wars mod. I figured, hey, you know what, why the fuck not? So, let me redo fucking... We'll set this shit to 11. That should do it. 6v6. Oh boy, who's shooting? Little things like this I fucking love about these games. And there were some good details in a lot of like Far Cry 4 or Metal Gear Solid 5, Titanfall 2, Doom in 2016. I think those are some of just the prettiest looking games from that time, and just there was a cutoff point. Basically, 2019 was when they stopped consistently across the board making fun games. 2020 is when shit hit the fan and became so hit and miss and mostly full of the Fortnite shit during COVID because everybody had too much time and wanted to take out their frustrations on the world on innocent bystanders who play video games instead of, maybe getting a life. Which is why Bill Gates bought all the farmland during COVID because all the farmers couldn't afford to dump the milk, so he kind of bailed them out in exchange for ownership of their property, if you will. Now that slimy fuck owns most of my food. That's not a thought I'm particularly comfortable with because his updates to Windows have never been good, so hopefully he doesn't make some bad updates to food that end up poisoning me or doing things I wouldn't want against my will. I'm sure there are natural explanations for things I say and do, but it's like I wouldn't want my food to be brain control, mind controlling me or putting me to sleep while he goes off and robs my house, you know what I mean? I wouldn't like that. And plus the behavior and a lot of the statements that, people like him and he would tend to make have been very concerning, coupled with his actions. And it's like, this is not a man who has anyone's best intentions at heart, so I'm not particularly interested in giving this man control over something that is vital to my continued existence, like food. So, things like that. It's kind of been talking about, kind of thrown around in various parts of that, and people don't tend to think about that stuff because it's like, well, it wouldn't immediately seem obvious, but you'd be more vaguely interested in the topic as opposed to specifically saying like, interesting bits of real history I'm particularly fascinated in is like people using pizza boxes as bombs or something. Pizza warfare, domestic, homegrown warfare shit, which nobody covers in fucking video games or TV shows, or when they do, it's usually very rarely, very sparsely, and it's like, you want to make war games very fun again? How about you have like police warfare or something, Call of Duty police warfare for like that mock-up from 2012, or shit like this where you have Star Wars Call of Duty Galactic Warfare. You want to make this shit interesting again? Here's a totally awesome format that's been done a million times. That's in need of some dire fucking need of some refreshment. Go ahead. I promise you it will be worthwhile. It'll be very fun and you'll make a lot of money. You like money, right, Activision? You like money and power, Microsoft? I'm willing to give you some. If you, of course, make a fun game where I can play it, I own it, and you don't do some bullshit after the sale. Or Sony, or Ubisoft, or 2K, or whoever the fuck it is. Make me a good deal and I'll make you some money. Because I don't care who's particularly making it. All I care about is what they're making. Not why they're making it, not who is making it, unless it's something that happened to me. If it's something that happened to me, that's the only reason I would really talk about it. Or if it's something that happened to something I used to be interested in, and I see this thing that's gone wrong with it, and I'm like, anime. Anime is a great example. I've known multiple people who've gotten into this fun, cool thing called anime, and it totally ruined their lives due to a lack of moderation, other issues they had, and they cut off people who would be beneficial for them. They cut off things that were beneficial for them to focus in on this anime thing that became unhealthy, that encouraged them to have bad habits, that made them feel like it was okay to say and do horrible things to people for no reason one day. It never was. It made them act like, you know, getting hit by a truck was cool, or running off a fucking bridge, because they could go to Fairy World and escape. No, all you're going to end up doing is hurting yourself, and what you leave behind is not what they tend to think of. Known a few people who've been suicidal who want to, you know, escape to anime land. Didn't end out well for them. That's why I could never really get into the thing. I used to watch a few of them as a kid, but I think what stood out to me was just how much better 3D animation was. It required a lot more talent, a lot more effort. Plus, Toy Story and Bug's Life just were more fun. Like, I really liked these goofy-looking things and places and people. Shrek. I always liked those because I could see those places. I could go there, you know? Or at least I'd really like to. And it's what I like about this, you know, video games, 3D shit that's semi-realistic. It's... you feel like you belong in this place. You feel like you're immersed in this world. I like virtual worlds. They're very fun to explore. Even ones that are just like reality. Well, I've never fucking been to the Middle East, or a lot of these countries that I play video games about them in. But doing this is a considerably cheaper way of going there, and without getting shot by, you know, a terrorist, or, you know, having to deal with terrible heat, or lack of water, or riding camels, or other shit. You know, it's just... I like exploring the world, you know? I like to travel this shit, but hey, traveling is pretty expensive. So having a different outlet and a different means to do that is fun. And it's not something that a lot of people who focus on style and, you know, sex appeal for make-believe pixels on screens that don't fucking exist ever tend to think about. They don't think about the place that's behind the sexualized woman. Meanwhile, what tends to turn me off of that shit is, A, it's a person who doesn't fucking exist, some cartoon character usually. 2, I don't know how fucking old that person is, no thank you. And 3, I have several questions that may not be appropriate to ask on YouTube, so I'm not going to. Plus a few insults and things that would not be very civilized, so I'm just not going to talk about them, because that would be disrespectful, and especially around Christmas, you know? It's just unsightly. Plus, I tend to talk like locker room dude bro shit, because, like, this is a video game where you kill people, sir. They said it was okay for about 30 fucking years, so it's still okay now if they still sell it to me. They still actively sell this shit on Steam. Then they just pretend like it isn't sometimes. It's not okay to harass people, but the thing about it is the way they treat harassment is really fucking manipulative and shady as shit. Harassment is continuous. Harassment is multiple times. They treat harassment like it's, you say a condescending thing once, and now you're an enemy of the state. You're James Dominic Phoenix in Gears of War 4 or 5. You have knocked over too many cog chairs. You are now an enemy of the state. Because a Russian disabled person who you've never fucking heard of, never spoken to, have never known this person, disliked your video and thought it was condescending or rude, even though your culture and your shit says it's totally fine, right? You just can't... some shit you have to have plausible deniability for, and it's like... you can't please everybody, so I don't please everybody. It's like, you can only be expected to take accountability for so much shit before it just seems comical. Like, you know, my culture is going to be offensive to other people, but there's a rule of, like, you know, we don't fight over it just because it's polite. We don't go to wars about culture, usually. Right now, we're not in a war, but a lot of people are upset about various economical things and political shit, so they like to talk about it constantly and make it up to be a big deal that it isn't. And that just gets tiring. It gets tiring to hear about all the bitching, all the complaining. When realistically, you'd like to just see something fun or play something fun. You don't care about the people bitching in the background. It's like when your parents would fucking argue during a divorce or something. You don't want to remember the shitty part of the video game you were playing. You just want to have fun playing the game. But I've known people who've done that, and they couldn't get it out of their heads. Me, I could, because games like these ultimately made me have the ability to travel to different worlds that felt unique, that felt distinct. I think James Cameron's Avatar is a great example of a crazy cool world that we had before anime kind of took over and a lot of this stuff. It was still American made and all that stuff. The part that it was American didn't matter to me. The part where it was like Fallujah on steroids was cool. But as time went along, I started to notice this sort of disparity where American shit is sabotaged, told that it's less, people believe it's lesser, it's inferior to anime or Japanese stuff, when anime isn't particularly well animated, often isn't very well written, very loud, very grating on the ears, doesn't look particularly nice or pleasant to look at for long periods of time due to light sensitivity issues I have, especially with blue lights and other manners of things. It becomes very hard for me to focus on these characters because there's no roughness or details I could catch on to. Something like an oil painting would be preferable, because then I would at least have some details I could cling on to. I could use my eyes and see, okay, that's a picture of a fucking brick wall. And that's what these tend to look like. To me, I don't think this looks bad. I think it just looks like an oil painting, or it looks like a canvas or something. And that's not the way it was intended. Originally this was, just fucking photorealism, but because this kind of dark, heavy use of normal maps throughout is used in the manner it is, it does make it look less realistic and more like a war-torn, haunted oil painting that's interactive and you can jump into, like Mario 64. The Xbox was a very natural kind of extension after, like, a lot of Sega and Sonic as well as Nintendo stuff. And to be fair, yeah, they were borrowing a bit. But they went on their own direction that was more mature, or more action movie centric, and eventually did devolve into nonsense because it went on for way too long, the same way that a lot of the stuff that hates games from this time is doing now. And that's like, if you can't add anything to the party, well, then you're free to leave. If you don't like this stuff, you can just go. Nobody's telling you that you have to keep making Call of Duties except for you. If you want to make Barbie doll girl world simulator, sure, do that. Make Barbie doll shooter games. Just don't call it Call of Duty, because now you've associated the name with this thing that it simply isn't. It's jarring to have, like, in-jokes and things that people would poke fun at, in the game. Because that tells me you're not expecting me to take this shit seriously whatsoever, and you're not taking this shit seriously whatsoever, so what you have to say lacks a lot of merit. Not that it has no merit, but you clearly don't intend for it to have any merit. Your intention and your meaning behind saying that has become problematic. I don't care unless you've made it a problem. If you're not doing a compelling job, it's the only reason why I would point shit like that out. And that's their issue. But enough issues shit. I talk about more fucking issues than a comic book series. What I liked about a lot of 2011 stuff and a lot of these games is how they tried to, even in their old primitive state, exaggerate a lot of shit so it looked more like it was, impactful. When I shoot the ground and big puffs of dirt kick up, or when I shoot a wall, big columns of smoke come out, as well as chunks of the wall itself, that tells me that when I shot this wall, yeah, it fucking damaged the thing, even though it didn't. I've turned the bullet impacts off because the CPU is not exactly utilizing itself very well in this game, so I hope Bot 6 is able to kill all these rebels. If he ain't, then I don't know. James Cameron's Avatar, though, I saw that in the theater in 3D back in like, I don't know, 2011, I think is when it came out. And just a lot of the way that looked, very dark blues, ocean stuff, fluorescent lights, that's the way they're called, like the neon glowy jellyfish stuff that's under the sea, coral reefs, bubbles, kelp forests. That stuff is super interesting, and I love the way that looks. I used to see that just all the time in like big Best Buy stores and other brick and mortar stuff. Best Buy actually used to be a good deal. Now it's just mediocre. Unless you're looking to get, of all things, hard drives. It's like the only okay thing they have there, but Walmart's outpriced them, so I tend to get my shit from there instead if I need. Pro tip, don't use Google Drive, use USB storage. Way cheaper for about, you know, $12, get 120 fucking gigabytes of storage. Hell, if even 12, not even 12, just like $5. Usually they got it on a rollback. You have to look around naturally, but it's like, you know, good deals like that still totally exist. Things I enjoyed from 2011 have been done better and improved. I would love to see improvement. I don't just want to see the same thing over and over. That gets boring. That gets boring and lame, and I hate seeing the same things over and over. I'm not seeing these like cool new innovations that they used to do near the start of the Xbox One generation. I really liked how Far Cry 4 and Mafia 3 and Metal Gear Solid 5 or Doom in 2016, Titanfall 2, Watch Dogs, they were doing new shit, hackers and mechs, and if they weren't doing something new, they were at least doing something new with something old. It wasn't literally just make the same thing but worse and performs worse, looks worse, and just is inferior to something that came out 20 years ago. It was, no, make a successor to it that mixes modern technology with the thing that made that thing good and enhances it. What I loved about Doom in 2016 was not that they just made Doom again, it was that they did something new with a long since, you know, kind of forgotten relic of the past that had really been showing its age and its inability to adapt to the shooter genre that took over with Call of Duty after it. The arena games died out because Call of Duty was just more compelling and interesting at the time. Not because the arena games were particularly bad, it's just they weren't evolving. They weren't growing, they weren't maturing. They weren't doing anything new, they weren't doing anything interesting, they stayed the same as they always were and died out in 2 weeks because they became boring. Plus, there were just better ones that came out before, so if it's like you got an inferior version of the same thing you bought 20 years ago, why would you play the new one that sucks and only looks marginally better? You wouldn't. Plus, it's not like the graphics were everything. Like, a lot of those PlayStation 2 games did a lot of hyper-exaggerations, and stuff from this generation toned it down a little bit to be, you know, more quasi-realism stuff. They still had exaggerated fucking, you know, destroyed glass and smoky cars. Like, a car does not catch on fire if you shoot it in the trunk, naturally. But, like, that's still exaggerated, but it's not as exaggerated as you would expect from, say, like, fucking Quake or Doom. But the physics and the technology was really nice. Couple that with it having its own, like, fucking shadows and shit, that's pretty dope. Now, Unreal Engine could probably do that, but I would not want to optimize that at all, so I just tend to go with no shadows or very few. It's also just more, you know, time efficient, so it's like, yeah, a number of things. Plus, if I can just fake shadows using normal map techniques from 2007 games like Modern Warfare here, and make the textures look better, these textures still totally work. All you need is better lighting, and you could have a better looking and running game. Even without the remastered, you know, re-release game from 2016 of this, right? All you would need, realistically, to bring this game up to modern standards in its original form... Oh, fuck. All you would really need is, like, some post-processing. You could just use, like, Reshade for that, though. So I did. It was pretty fun to do that. Since most of these maps are in, like, the Middle East, You know, it's easy enough. The shit's blocks. It's very brick houses, dirt. Making everything look dirty ends up kind of inadvertently making them look super detailed when they're not. Like that's not that looks like a fucking 240p resolution texture. Looks like old me at the zoo here, and yeah, to be fair, it probably was, and just is most of the time. The shit dynamically changes in and out constantly. So if you look at those washing machines or trash cans over there, well, the trash cans are never going to be at their highest detail. Even if I'm like right next to this car, it will, from that distance, turn to a lower level of detail. It's just magic tricks like that that are done in plain sight to optimize your game. Darth Zerg has been rather impressed by my handiwork, and that's awesome. But yeah, what I really liked about a lot of shit from 2011, 2010, a lot of this era was how the worlds looked really dirty, but also there were elements where they would mix like real people and fantastical worlds, and it wouldn't be like anime exactly. It would be like taking bits from it. It's like when you go to the movie theater, I don't want my popcorn to be all salt with a little bits of kernels of corn. I want it to be popcorn with butter, and they don't serve butter anymore with anime, as this, you know, reference or this sort of analogy would go. Anime is like putting way too much salt in a bag, serving it to me, and then putting a few kernels of popcorn on top and calling it popcorn. Meanwhile, Call of Duty is more just like Call of Duty or James Cameron's Avatar is like popcorn with a little bit of salt and the butter I enjoy. I like butter in my popcorn. Does that mean everybody does? No, but I don't care about what everybody else likes. I just care what I like. You're getting paid. It's not my problem. So, do you like money, or are you not going to serve me butter? Oh, we'll serve you butter, but we're just going to judge you and artificially make you seem like you're a weirdo for wanting butter on your popcorn, even though we've been serving that to you for 15 years at this exact same movie theater. Like, okay, why is butter the problem now? Did you do something to the butter? It makes me suspicious now. It's like, huh? Are you trying to insinuate that you've poisoned the butter, or you've taken a sneeze in the butter or something? Like, what'd you do? What'd you do to the butter? I just wanted butter in my popcorn, you know? So, little things like that. I mean, because of the way that this shit worked here in the Star Wars, you know, Galactic Warfare and the Call of Duty days, it's like, yeah, that would be a reasonable assumption. It turns out, yeah, though. Of course, they're not going to say that they sneezed in it, because what they actually did is they just rubbed a napkin on their armpit and put it in the butter. Crumpled it up with a blender and put it in there, little bite-sized pieces. Oh, no wonder this tastes like shit. You put your fucking armpit juice in there. I didn't need to know that. Why are you putting your armpit juice in butter? I don't know. But you said you wanted it, right? Not if you fucking sabotage it, no. I liked it when it was just butter. Or it's like Ross Scott would say about stop killing games. How about we just, you know, not put sawdust in bread? Because it's not required. You don't need to put sawdust in people's bread. So don't. Anyway, that's enough of that for today. Thanks for watching, and may the force be with you.